Welcome to the Saturday Slam and Jam here on the Athletic NBA Daily. On today's show, we're talking to Bryce Simon of the Game Theory podcast, Pistons Pulse podcast, to discuss the NBA draft, the conference finals, and then we will do some trivia. With me, as always, is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
Hi, Andrew.
Sorry, I just took a big swig of water. Okay. You caught me mid-swig.
Okay, caught you mid-swig. And with us, Bryce Simon, who is one of my favorite people to listen to. If you're not listening to the Game Theory podcast, you should be. Somebody that knows a ton about the game, a ton about the draft and the playoffs, which is a pretty incredible combo. Let's be honest. There's not that many people that can do this. Bryce, welcome back to Slam and Jam.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me back. I appreciate you having me back. Remember the first time you asked me on, I was like, man, this is kind of surreal. Being able to come on a podcast I've listened to for however long. And I used to be like, I don't know how people do this. Like, how do you know the draft and the NBA and all of this? And now I'm like right in the middle of it, trying to do the best I can. So I'm excited to talk about this. And then, honestly, I'm just going to sleepwalk until the end where I'm super excited about trivia and making a fool of myself.
Well, let's start with the draft. Most draft analysts see the third pick as the first potential pivot point of the draft. Who is currently third on your big board? And do you have any strong opinions about what Philly should do with that pick?
Yeah, so Ace Bailey is still third on my big board. I think he's probably the I don't know if consensus might not be the right word. Yeah, in general, I think that's still the guy you're going to find at 3. I think you will find a mixture of opinions in terms of some people will say like Ace is definitely number 3 we don't have to say it this way anymore, but if 30 different teams, any team that landed number 3 would draft Ace Bailey, I don't know that is the case for everybody, though. I think some people would have VJ. Some people, who I think is a good riser in this range is Trey Johnson. I think he's done really well for himself late in the cycle here, getting later in the cycle. My guy Sam, he likes Knippel a lot. He's a little higher on him than I am. I just see Ace Bailey and still like, this is what the NBA is looking for in terms of a wing with shot making, some potential defense, all of that. So I'm still there at 3. There's not many teams I probably wouldn't take Ace Bailey at 3. Obviously, it's Phillies. We know that now. And just to answer that question, I think Philly should make this pick, whether it's Ace or like trust your scouts, but make this pick. Do you want to go make a move for an established vet, not having, and I'd be pissed if I did that and then Joel and PG come back and they're injured again. And I missed out on getting a little bit younger with Tyrese and Jared McCain and those guys. So I'm making this pick. If I'm Daryl Morey, I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, especially for everything that's gone wrong with Philly, they've actually done a pretty good job drafting, with Maxey, McCain. So I kind of trust them too. I want to ask you about Ace Bailey's potential role in the NBA, because there's some fans who view him as this high ceiling offensive star. Others see him thinking his eventual role might look something more like Michael Porter Jr. Do you think it would benefit his development to go to an established team like Philly, where he would be put in a smaller role initially? Or would going to a bad team benefit him because he would get a more immediate opportunity to develop the rest of his offense?
Yeah, I actually think a team... There's some things with Philly that I've had people tell me like, Bryce, I think you're missing some stuff here in terms of, how processing and stuff like that and putting him in with that team. And that's a great point with the way they've drafted. Like Philly actually had a really nice draft last year between getting Jared McCain where they got him and even Justin Edwards is a guy they ended up getting and looks like maybe a rotation player. I think I would love to see Ace go somewhere where you said initially where, hey, go play this Michael Porter Jr.-ish, this Jabari Smith Jr.-ish type of role where other people create shots for you. You just work on knocking down shots. Do that. Work on your defense, your all around game. Cause that's the ceiling to me, guys, is this 2-way wing, not 3-and-D wing, a 2-way wing, a guy that really guards, that makes defensive plays, that can rebound, and then develop his strength in his lower body and all of that, where then he can do a little bit more 2-3 years down the road and maybe ends up being your second option. But I think if you thrust him into second option, first option early on in his career, that's where I'd be a little bit nervous about his progression and how successful he is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's there's two different philosophies on that. I think like some people think like, okay, guys need reps to figure out who they are. And then there's like the guys need, structure and you can see it both ways. And I think it really just comes down to like the ultimate potential of these guys and the ultimate potential of these players. Cause I think like you can look at a guy that we'll talk about later, Cason Wallace for the Thunder, has done so well in this kind of like boxed in limited role. And they continue to kind of expand what he's doing. And then this doesn't seem like a great example right now, but if you think about who Jordan Poole was in his first year in the NBA, he was not a good NBA player. I mean, there were people saying that he is literally the worst player in the NBA, but he had that year where the Warriors were terrible because of injuries to kind of spread his wings and kind of figure out who he was against NBA defenses. And he became a really good player in the league and is making a ton of money and, helped them win a championship. And so I don't know. I don't know where I would lie with Ace himself. I think that you probably have a better idea. And I think the way that you described it sounds really good. I just think that it's interesting because there's just so many different paths you can take in the league.
And real quick, like with Philly, let's play Philly out. You're telling me there's not chances for him to be the number one option on a team where two of their three best players are going to miss how many games next year? Right. And Tyrese Maxey isn't playing 48 minutes a night. I mean, how many teams in the league don't have times where, hey, we could really use a guy to run the show when our best player is off the floor? What do we talk about with the Nuggets? How are they going to win the non-Jokic? How are they going to be neutral in the non-Jokic? Heck, the Oklahoma City Thunder is, when your SJ is on the floor, you feel really good about the offense. Is J-Dub going to do what he needs to do in the non-SGA minutes? A name I'll throw out to you. Look at Trey Murphy III, who I thought had a big breakout season this year in terms of like, hey, is this guy actually maybe a potential all-star eventually, a potential number 2, high-level number 3 option? Here's his usage percentage: 15-6, 16-6, 18-7, 23-7. Points per game: 5.4, 14.5, 14.8, 21.2. What's wrong with progression that way? Like, why do guys have to come in and do it right away? Especially, in my opinion, where I'm not sure Ace is ready for that, right? Like, LeBron came in and he was ready, right? Victor came in and he was ready. Ace's team just went under 500 with the number 2 pick on it. Like, obviously he's not quite ready for that load. So why thrust him into that in the NBA? That's how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm. So who's your favorite star bet outside the top 3? So if you were a team in desperate need of a star, like the Jazz, and they were wanting to swing for the fences, who is a guy that you would bet on as a star?
Okay, so I think Trey Johnson is a great fit in Utah because of how they run their offense. I don't know that Trey is the answer to your question necessarily what you're asking. I do just want to say, like, I think Trey could be a high level secondary guy, like a second. I don't know how many primary guys are in this class outside of the top 2, right? Like we all know Cooper. I think Dylan Harper is a run your team bucket getter, like primary option in his ceiling, right? There are no sure things. Trey is really, really interesting as an off ball scorer, big time bucket getter if he accepts that role. If he wants to play on the ball, I'm a little more nervous because the athleticism isn't there. Here's the fun name, guys, is Derek Queen. Derek Queen is a very, very fun name. So if you want to make me take a deep cut here, that dude, when you just watch that dude offensively, like if you want to talk upside, go the synergy, click on field goals made and whatever. And you're like, this dude is a bucket off the bounce. He's got these moves. He's got a long first step. He draws fouls. And I'm like, I don't know if it works or not, but if you want to take a bet on an upside, like offensive hub type of player, Derek Queen might be the name in this range.
What's a comp for Queen that you like? The dreaded question to every draft analyst.
Oh my gosh, I hate because it's always so let's see. Offensively, like I don't know that he's like the passer that like those guys are. I think he's a good processor. I don't know that he's quite the passer of like Nikola Jokic is my least favorite comp ever. Jokic and Draymond are like, if I hear somebody comp to those two guys, I'm like, I'm out. Those guys are like one of a kind type of players. I'm trying to think, like I put a Nas Reed type of role as like his worst case. I'm trying to think of a big that's that level of score in the way that Queen is able to attack. Maybe like a super, like Nas, like Nas Reed. He's not the shooter Nas Reed is though.
But Nas Reed wasn't either coming into the NBA.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go through some of this stuff. Maybe you guys will come up with a name. Off the bounce, has euros, bumps, floaters, left hand finishes, draws foul, covers ground with his first step, loves his spin move, has momentum off the catch with his cut, short rolls, dunkers. He's a quick finisher, so he's not an explosive guy. He is a high level processor. He'll short roll, catch everything, and then the jumper is a question. Like, is that
like, how does he compare to someone like Boogie?
Okay, I think somebody had brought that one up, that Boogie was an interesting comp for him. Okay. I don't know that he's as big as Boogie though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he's just not quite as big. He feels a little bit throwback to me.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably would have been like the number 2 pick if this were 2007 or something.
Yeah. And that's what I had somebody reach out to me with Queen was when his measurements came in, they were like, Bryce, I just want you to understand that this is below average well below average for a 5 and like neutral at best for a 4. And so there was some concerns whenever the measurements came in terms of the wingspan and the standing reach and some of that stuff.
So it seems like every year there's a defense first 7-footer in the lottery, and there's this discussion about the value of taking that player high in the draft. Last year it was Klingon, who at times was expected to go in the top 3, but he eventually fell to Portland at 7. This year it's Malwatch. How would you compare Klingon and Malwatch as center prospects? And do you buy into the high upside argument for Malwatch?
I did early in the cycle. I was super high. Like Common was a guy I thought, so for people who like track this, or I guess for people who don't, early on, this was considered a top 5 draft. That's why when people talked about how good this draft was, and they hung on to that notion for too long, it was Cooper, Ace, Dylan, VJ, and Nolan Traore. I thought Common was the guy that was going to break into that for me. Like when I first turned on the film, right after last year's draft, started looking at the 2025. I'm like, I love this dude. This is my archetype of player. And he didn't show that upside. He hasn't shown the floor spacing and some of those skills. The defense is really interesting. He showed some movement on the defensive end. Obviously the size. I would say the biggest difference is like Klingon is just so strong, guys. Like you just trust his base and the way he sets screens and holding up. Common, I'm worried he gets rooted out and moved because he's so long. Sam's favorite thing to say is the high hips. Common has those high hips. And then the other thing is Common struggles to catch the ball at times. Like it's a little Rudy Gobert-ish, which like watching Rudy in these playoffs have really like, man, like he's not getting played off the court defensively. He can't do anything on the offensive end. Like he never makes the other team pay because he doesn't catch the ball or doesn't finish or whatever. Common has some of that, whether it's rebounds or, he'll have the highlight lob dunks, but I'm a little bit lower on Common because I think there's some of those worries, and I'm a little less excited about the upside, even though it sounds like he's gaining steam in general.
Right.
So as you've been doing mock drafts, are there any players projected in the lottery that you think could fall on draft night? Guys who have been like having trouble consistently finding good landing spots,
Yeah. So Jeremiah Fears is going to be one of the funnest names, I think, to watch. And what we've talked about over there. So if you go to the draft order, right, and you go through, okay, who are teams that could really use a point guard? Like especially a guy like Kasparis Yakishonis is a guy that I think you can play on or off the ball. So there's a little bit more positional versatility there. You don't have to draft him as only an on-ball guy. It seems like there could be a breaking point for primary creators, true primary creators after number 8 with the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, they could use one, right? As we sit here today. But like Toronto.
Could use one of everything. Let's be honest.
That's fair. Toronto at 9. They could, all of these teams could, but it's like they have how many different guys can play with the ball in their hands? Like their entire starting lineup already wants to do that, even though they're wings. Houston, I don't think so. Portland has plenty of guards. Atlanta, unless you're drafting Trey's backup / potential replacement. San Antonio has Fox and Steph Castle that does that a little bit. Oklahoma City is the inverse of Brooklyn. What could they use, right? Like, I hate trying to draft for the Thunder because it's like, well, they're never going to play because they're awesome and they have depth, and they just drafted Topic, who didn't even get a play this year. So then it's like 9 to 16 when you get to Orlando, where it's like, could some of these guys fall if they don't get in the top 8, or does somebody trade into that area to draft them? So I think that's something to watch.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I am kind of interested in the idea of Atlanta, because they kind of tried it with Kobe Buffkin a few years ago. That didn't really seem to work out. And I just wonder if they'd go back to that. If he fell down there, which he might.
Still a Buffkin boy, by the way. I'm still
a Buffkin guy.
Here.
Okay,
guys, you won't find a bigger Kobe Buffkin fan, man. Like I love Kobe Buffkin, and it hasn't worked out yet, right?
Yes. Come on.
Yet, ... yet, exclamation point. I almost took Fears to Atlanta, actually. I was like, man, this is kind of interesting to me, where, I mean, okay, if you're going to play this, they've built this team around Trey, right? We're going to get all of these wings. We're going to get, I guess, the big that runs the pick and roll. Why not have that guy in the second unit? Let Fears do that for 18 in the non-Trey minutes as a rookie. And if he's awesome, then you trade Trey Young. And, if he's not, then I'm still trying to figure out, like, okay, where does that work? Where does the team feel okay with that? So Atlanta has pick 13? Is that a place for a backup point guard? Is that good value if you're Atlanta? But my thing is that changes every year, right? Like this year, people are like, last year, Alex Sarr doesn't look like a number 1 pick. Zachary Risache doesn't look like a number 1 pick. Guys, what a number 1 pick looked like changes every year. Right? Like there was nobody in that class that looked like a number 1 pick. And so for Atlanta, I don't hate that. I don't hate the idea of adding the backup point guard that could either be the heir apparent to Trey, or you figure it out. So maybe there's a couple teams in there that could surprise.
So one of the biggest risers in this pre-draft process has been Cedric Coward, who played all of 6 games at Washington State this season before getting injured. How justified do you feel like the hype is around Coward right now, and how high do you think he could go on draft night?
I think it's justified in terms of I have him in as like a mid first round pick. This is just like when you look at the wingspan and the size and what he can do offensively and all of that. I think this is what an NBA teams are looking for. So I do think he's an interesting prospect. It is tough because, we had the Eastern Washington film and then we got 6 games of Washington State. And I've watched that film, obviously, but it would have been nice to get the rest of the schedule in a league, that was a jump, right? But he's a career 39% 3-point shooter. He's a career 83% free throw shooter. He rebounds. The defense, I think, is more theoretical than practical. I would like to see him actually be better on that end. And that's one reason why I may not be quite as high as some others. I got a chance to see him in person, not this past season, but when he was at Eastern Washington. And he was really impressive, just the athletic build, the wingspan, all of that. So I think when you're looking for wings, especially potential 2-way wings, that's why a guy like this rises in the process.
Yeah, he may be a guy that qualifies for this, but at the end of the first round, there are several teams, including Celtics, Suns, and Clippers, who could really use just some cost-controlled guy that can get into the rotation and just be helpful to them. Are there any prospects in the late first, early second that you feel like fit this mold?
So this is what's interesting. We probably need to have the NIL conversation at some point, because it is going to be a conversation for this draft specifically, and then moving forward. A couple names first. Like, this is the range I have. Noah Pinda. I think Noah Pinda would be, in regards to that, like, would be interesting. 19, he's turned 20 now, playing overseas. I have him as like a rotational forward, advantage exploiter, cuts, offensive rebounds, attacks closeouts. Not great vertical pop, so can he finish those? There's some questions around his shooting, but then is also a good defender. Other people are higher on his defense than me, but I think it's fine. I just don't think it's like elite the way some have him. Maxime Reynaud is a big that I absolutely love. That's an older player that can be like a stretch skilled big for a team. Obviously, Janai Broom. If Yaxel Lindeborg stays in, he's a name that's interesting here. Cockbrenner is another one. The big out of Creighton. That would be interesting.
What a name.
Yeah. got to be careful with that one.
Yep.
So, but here's the thing is, I don't know what some of these guys are going to do. Yaxel's the big one that I just named in terms of he's got a lot of money on the table in college basketball. And that's where I don't know the end of the first, top of the second may be as exciting for people as other drafts, because some guys that would have normally stayed in may go back because they're just going to, even compared to an end of the first round pick guys, they may have more money on the table for them going back, at least for a 1 year sample.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. What is the date? What is the final date that they have to?
We're coming up in like 5 days. I think the 28th is the withdrawal, the NCAA withdrawal. I'll give you like Alex Caravan is a guy that we would talk about in this range right now. And like, he didn't even go through the draft process. Like, he's already back at Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so and here's the other one is overseas guys. We see more and more overseas players that maybe have went ahead and stayed in and been like second round draft and stash or whatever, that are now going, hey, no, I'm actually just going to go play in college and make whatever these guys are making. Like, I don't even want to throw out numbers because I don't even know where they're at this point. I know it's ridiculous. That's all I know. I didn't get any of it. That's why I'm salty about it. Not that I would have got any of it because I wasn't good enough. I don't know what Americans pay in NIL right now. I did get a little bit EA Sports money. Thank you, Ed O'Bannon. I appreciate it.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that right now.
So O'Bannon sued, right, EA Sports for likeness and all of that. And then I got this thing in the mail one day, like, if you played during these years, college basketball, fill out this form or whatever, or go online, whatever it was, and you'll get compensated. So I got like $1,000, I think. I think it was $500 per year. I was a JUCO kid and then played 2 years of Division I. Here's the thing, though. My best friend made me feel bad about it because he goes, that was literally our childhood. EA Sports was our childhood. Like, you being a part of this is like sacrilegious or something because we grew up playing EA Sports. He was joking. I think he was a little bit serious, but I think he was mostly joking.
It's like, dude, this ship is going down anyways.
Yeah. Why do I not take like, I'm a teacher, man. Like, come on. I'm taking a G if I can get a G. So
for real.
Also, that's like way more than I was expecting you were going to say. Because usually with these things, it's like, oh, you'll get like $10, when there's like these class action lawsuits. $1,000, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, so that's what, like, and then my teammates who played all 4 years, I assume they got a couple grand, and that's where it's unfair. Like, I had no NIL. Like, I was a no. Like, I started, I played, whatever. But it was not like I would have actually made money, right? Like, I always looked at it I got a free education from American University in Washington, D.C. Like, this is more than payment for me. Other people, it's a little bit different, right? Like, that's where that was unfair. Was I was in college at the same time as like Steph, and like Steph literally could have been making money because he was the face of college basketball, that year. I don't know, that maybe not the face, but we played Blake Griffin the next year, my senior year, we opened with Oklahoma. Like, Blake Griffin actually could have made NIL money.
Okay. Tell me about playing Blake Griffin. We don't need to take like long tangents, but you can't just say that. You can't just say that and that be a footnote. I'm sorry.
Okay. So real quick, I had tore my ACL 2 games before the NCAA tournament my junior year. And I was coming back from injury. It's a long story. That is a long story. So I won't go into that. So I wasn't getting to play this, but they scheduled this game for me. Like, they tried to schedule games to go back close to home so your family could watch you play because I was from Kansas.
Wow.
So it was really cool. So every year,
really cool.
Yeah. Every year we would try to go Coach Jones would try to schedule somewhere close. Obviously must not have been able to get Kansas or Kansas State or whatever. So we went and played Blake Griffin's Final Four Oklahoma team to start the year. And here is what I will tell you. This will sound a little bit arrogant. I'm not usually intimidated on a basketball court, right? Like, I'm kind of arrogant when it comes to that. Like, I worked really hard and I felt like I belonged. We walked into the gym and that dude is drenched in sweat 3 hours before the game, going through a workout routine. And he is just like this physical specimen that I've never seen before. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be good. And they blasted us by 40 and ended up on SportsCenter top 10 about 4 times. So it was a sign of hey, and here's the thing, guys, we didn't suck. We went to the NCAA tournament the year before. We went to the NCAA tournament that year and had Villanova down at halftime in the Wachovia Center in Philly.
Wow.
In the first round, and Villanova went to the Final Four. So like, if we weren't some trash team, it's just like we had nobody that could match his level of physicality. Like I've never been intimidated that way. And like, I played Roy Hibbert. I played other dudes. It was just like, it was something different.
That's awesome. Okay, Bryce, it's time for our lightning round. Six questions. For each question, we just want you to give us the name of one prospect. So first question, who is the draft prospect that you've changed your mind on the most during this process?
Carter Bryant, biggest riser for me.
Okay. And so, because I know that like the pitch with him is like 3-and-D. Do you think there's more there than just a 3-and-D prospect? Or is he just so good in that role?
I think he can pass a little bit of I think he's an advantage exploiter. So I use that term a lot. When I say advantage exploiter, that is somebody that can catch and shoot, but is also able to attack a closeout when he gets a hard closeout. And then if he gets rotation, then he can make the pass out of that as well. And in probably some realms score, whether it's a mid-range jumper, floater, all the way to the rim. I think Carter Bryant is a little more than 3-and-D because I think he can exploit advantages because I think he can really pass. The handle's a little shaky, but I think he can probably do it in straight lines.
Who's the draft prospect that you find yourself consistently ranking higher than consensus?
Nick Clifford was the answer early. I would say probably Rasheer Fleming is still a player I'm higher on than most.
Who is the lottery prospect with a weakness that concerns you the most? Like you have them in your lottery, but they do have this weakness that everyone's aware of, and it genuinely does worry you. Okay,
I'll give you two real quick. Colin Murray-Boyles on the offensive end makes me more nervous than I thought. I had CMB really high at one point. I think he's incredible defensively. This is the Draymond Green thing in terms of like, okay, well, does he find a team that gives him the Draymond Green offensive role? Now he has great touch and stuff like that. I'm a little nervous there. I'll give you a sneaky one. Like VJ Edgecombe's offense makes me a little nervous as well. Like I'm not completely sold on the jumper and I think it's very elongated and that makes me a little bit nervous, even though I think he's an awesome athlete, awesome kid, really good defender.
Who's the prospect that has the most elite NBA skill?
I mean, I just say Cooper Flagg, right?
Okay, yeah. non-Cooper division.
We haven't even talked Cooper Flagg, right? I got to get Cooper Flagg.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. Get some Coop in here.
I think it's just the way he approaches the game. Like, I think that's the more I've talked to scouts. You know, a couple of years ago, I wasn't even like when I first started doing this. I didn't really know people. The more I got into this, where I can talk to scouts and stuff like that, it's like this mental side of the game, of the NBA game, is so important. Like it truly is. And I think Cooper has all of that. I was so impressed with the way he handled himself at Duke, the season he had, even just being better offensively than what I thought he was going to be. But everything you hear about the way he approaches the game, his toughness, doing the little things, I find that to be a skill. And I think that's really impressive in a number one pick.
Okay, you've been doing a bunch of mock drafts. What has been your favorite fit between a draft prospect and a team so far? Like you just keep matching them up together.
Yeah, so I think the Trey Johnson, I alluded to earlier, him in Utah, I really like that. I like that for Trey, and I like that for Utah as well. And I know people will be like, but they have so many guards. I'm like, yeah, but are any of those guards really that good or long-term? Like to me, Keontae George is a backup guard. Isaiah Collier is a backup guard. Sorry, Keontae. How long is Colin Sexton there? How long is Jordan Clarkson there? So I would just keep throwing it at it. And again, I think the way they would use him really makes a lot of sense. And then I'll throw out the one I talked with Andrew about yesterday. So I can also talk about the, is it GIF or GIF? Because like my students argue with me. GIF
I've
or
always
GIF?
said GIF.
GIF. Okay. About the GIF that I was not able to find. Danny Wolf to OKC is really fun. Yeah. I like that. I don't know that he actually fits the dribble pass shoot because I'm not sold that he can shoot, but it just seems like he would make a lot of sense for Sam Presti. And the GIF issue is like, whatever, we went down this rabbit hole eventually to the Teen Wolf movie. No Teen Wolf GIF for me to find. So like back up what I was trying to talk. I was very frustrated by this.
It just doesn't even make sense. Honestly.
Danny Wolf's highlights, just watching him play is so bizarre. Because like I hadn't seen him before, so I just heard like, okay, this like big 7-footer who has some skill, and then you start watching, and he's playing like a guard, and I'm just like trying to imagine what that would look like in the NBA, like trying to figure out what this really would look like if Danny Wolf was in the NBA, and I just like can't figure it out yet. I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and to your credit, it reminds me of when Sam Presti, when they brought in Isaiah Hartenstein, he was like, you know what? I think I would have signed Isaiah if he was 6'8". And then like he was like a few minutes later, he was like, in fact, I think I would have signed him if he was 6'5". It was like, how short would this guy need to be for you to still want him on your roster? But his point was like, this guy's so skilled. And like, that is what we're looking for, you know, in a player. And so like, that's where it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of like similar in that way.
I mean, Hartenstein should be on every big man's film, whatever, with the little floater game. Like every big needs that. When he misses, I'm like shocked. And he went through a stretch. Was it last round or the round before? I was like, wait, what? He missed like 4 in a row. What is going on here?
Game 4, he missed a ton.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, the other one is Charlotte. And this is a little bit of a cop out, but I like Con or VJ for Charlotte. VJ has been the one that I've like said a lot. I don't mind Con there either, but I think VJ would make a lot of sense for Charlotte. Like just putting him in between LaMelo and Brandon Miller. I'll give you another one. I don't think he's going to be there. Common Malawach to the Atlanta Hawks. I love the idea of that for Common.
Yeah, I like that too.
I don't think he's making it to 13 to be clear. They would have to trade up, and that's not quite as common as like the NFL draft, right? Like the NFL draft, it's you always see these trade ups, but I would like that fit a lot.
Yeah,
could I ask you
Common? Did you catch that one? Did you catch yourself saying that?
Oh, very good.
Did I? Of course I did that on purpose. I mean, what are you talking about?
Could I ask you a follow up on Trey? Because like for Jazz fans out there, because I always hear about like the context of Trey at Texas and how bad it was. And so like if Utah fans aren't blown away by what they, you know, if they're just looking at the stats from Trey in college, like could you explain a little bit about why that context wasn't great for him?
Yeah. And listen, I will be clear. Some of it's his own doing. Like some of the negativity around Trey is Trey's fault because of body language stuff. I mean, guys, I literally had NBA scouts send me the same clips I was worried about in terms of standing off the ball with his palms up. Like, why aren't you passing me the ball right now? And then kind of, I don't want to say throwing a fit, but and I don't like to judge that stuff from film, right? Like it's hard. I'm not out in person watching a lot of these games, but when I have an NBA scout who has seen him in person bring it up, it was a little bit like, okay, I was onto something here. What I would say is like, he is like a really good shooter, guys. And he has good size. He has a high release. He can get it off quickly. He can do it off movement. He was 15 of 29 on 3-pointers off screens. 5 of 12 off handoffs. I know that's a low number. The good catch and shoot numbers, like a lot of his percentages are brought down because he tried to create an isolation, which I don't think is his game. Like he's not a super twitchy guy. So his shot diet was very difficult in those situations. Here's what I said about him. Shooter, advantage exploiter, to attack on a second side, not a primary shot creator, really good secondary. Here's the thing. His quickest way to fail in the NBA is to not accept that role. If he's willing to accept that role, I think Trey Johnson is going to be awesome in the NBA. But if he wants to be this on ball, whatever, SGA, James Harden, whatever type, Cade Cunningham type of player, I don't think he's going to find a whole lot of success, at least not as much.
I have one last draft question for you. Do you like the Dylan Harper fit for the Spurs?
No, I mean, I don't think it's ideal. He's too much better than whoever I have at number 3 to not take him. So like my draft philosophy is you don't break tiers for fits, right? And it's just like Cooper is the number 1 pick for 30 teams in the NBA, in my opinion. And Dylan Harper is the number 2 pick for 30 teams in the NBA. Now, if they found a trade they liked and whatever, like I would be okay with it. But no, I don't think it's like perfect when you consider De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle and however they want to use him. Like if Sohan is still there, that's another non-shooter. Like I think Dylan's probably going to shoot a little bit, but no, I would rather Dylan was going to a place where he was the primary creator. Now, to my point earlier, maybe it works out okay where he learns to play off the ball a little bit and he has good enough size to do it. And then he runs the second unit. The problem with that is, well, now Steph Castle doesn't get to run the second unit, right? So like there's a little bit of overlap there that isn't ideal, but from a talent perspective, for me, it's still a no-brainer.
Okay, Bryce, thank you for answering our draft questions. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to shift gears back to the NBA playoffs that you guys have been hearing about all week. It's been very exciting. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on the Slam and Jam with Bryce Simon. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. Last night, OKC took, I guess this would be 2 nights ago because you're listening to this on Saturday. 2 nights ago, the Thunder took a 2-0 lead in their series with the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves continue to struggle with their outside shot, but was there anything positive that you took from their offensive approach from games 1 and 2?
First off, I just realized that I don't know what I'm going to listen to while I mow the lawn on Saturday morning because usually Saturday Slam and Jam is. So got to figure that out over the next few hours. What am I going to listen to while I do that? So, I don't know, guys. Like I'm struggling a little bit here. I told you off air that if OKC dominated this game 2, and I don't know that they dominate, but they felt like they had this one pretty well, like in control, that I was like, I think they may win this in 5. Like I'm struggling to find the silver lining for Minnesota. You know, like Nah figured it out a little bit offensively. Maybe that's something. But here's where I would be worried is like Anthony Edwards, you know, had 32 on 26 shots, but like Julius Randle has not been good since the first half of game 1. And they had him so frustrated that Finch like kind of benched him for a while, it seemed like. And we had a listener over on Game Theory bring up an interesting thought as we were previewing the series. They were like, whoever's better in this series between J-Dub and Julius is probably going to win the series. And since the first half of game one, it hasn't even been close, right? Yeah. Like J-Dub has been the better player and Oklahoma City has been the better team for those 6 quarters. And so, I mean, you got 22 from Jaden McDaniels on 15 shots, 4 threes. Yeah. Like, is Conley all of a sudden going to start doing stuff? I don't think Gobert's the answer. I don't know. I just think this OKC defense is so good, guys.
Yeah, it's tricky because they need to like get into their offensive actions quicker, but they're too loosey-goosey with the basketball to do that. I think it just makes it really tricky. Like they need to continue to play with force like Ant did last night. But the Thunder haven't. I know the Wolves haven't shot well from 3. The Thunder haven't either. You know, they beat them by 15 and they didn't shoot well from 3. So I do think there will be a shot variance game that happens, whether that be game 3 or game 4. I think it will happen in Minnesota. But, you know, as of now, I'm kind of with you. I just don't feel like they have found any answers. They were searching. You know, they tried all different kinds of looks defensively. They took a bunch of guys on and off the court trying to figure it out. But OKC was able to kind of answer the call every time so far.
So I did know, like, first action of the game, they run something off the ball to get SGA switched onto Ant, and then they went to like the mid-post isolation. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I felt like Ant tried to do some like post isolations, but my thing is, there's always Hartenstein or Chet or somebody lurking or J-Dub running from off the ball to steal it whenever your back is to the basket. It's really hard. I think you just have to have a little more creativity. Like you say, maybe play a little better pace and get into your stuff. And this is what OKC does though, is they take you out of your flow. And the other thing I was thinking about today is they have so many guys they can throw at Ant. They have so many different options. Okay, he gets it going against Kaysen. All right, well, there's Lou. Oh, he gets it going against those guys. All right, let's put 2 on the ball for a little while, or whatever. And it's just like when you have that many answers, it's hard because you can always keep the offense off balance and guessing.
So, Bryce, I never know what to do with NBA.com's classification of shots when they say that they're wide open. Because when it comes to the Wolves' three-point shooting, a lot of their shots are getting classified as wide open.
Interesting.
But I'm not positive that that is an accurate reflection of the shots. Do you feel like the Wolves are generating high-quality three-point looks in this offense?
That is fascinating, Alex, because I was thinking about that last night. I was like, I'm going to go on Slam and Jam and say that I think OKC is creating better looks. And I bet somebody's going to throw stats at me that say I'm wrong. And so luckily you said it and I didn't have to. I can just agree. I think they got some good, like, do you think, how often does OKC give up a look that they don't want to give up? You know what I mean? Like, how many of those are like, I'm not saying you strategically leave Jaden McDaniels open in the corner, but it's the NBA. You have to give up something, right? And it's just like, in regards to that, I think OKC is relentless, and I think they dictate what they want from you outside of Julius in the first half, game one. And Ant's going to get his at times because Ant's incredible. Like, Ant is really, really good. And I actually thought his process was okay last night. I think he had like 6 assists and no turnovers. Is that right? I think he had no turnovers. Yeah, no turnovers last night. So it's just, I agree with you. And I don't know how they class it and track. Maybe it just seems like OKC does contest everything, would be my issue with that stat. But maybe I'm off. Maybe I just think that that's what happens and it's not what's actually going on.
Rudy Gobert he's always a topic of discussion and whether he can be impactful or not in the playoffs. In game 2, the Thunder were able to find a lot of space in the mid-range where Gobert's impact is really minimized. On the other hand, the Wolves starting lineup did outscore the Thunder in game 2. What have you thought about Gobert so far in this series?
Listen, I usually support Gobert. I just don't think it's been great. And this was like, I said it earlier, it's not always the defense. It's that he can't punish anybody on the offensive end. You know, he struggles to catch the ball. And then if he does catch the ball, he struggles to actually put it in the basket. You know, he's averaging 3.5 points on 38% from the field. He averaged less than 10 in the series before and 8 in the series before that. And, even the percentages aren't great because where every shot attempt is coming from. And what you said about the mid-range is something I thought about. Like, okay, he's deterring them from getting to the rim. Against a lot of teams, that matters a lot. Does it really matter against an SGA, J-Dub led Oklahoma City Thunder team that is perfectly fine pulling up at 15 feet and knocking down that shot consistently? We even saw it when they went zone. Three different times when Minnesota went zone. Caruso did it back to back, and then Chet did it in the third quarter. Got to the middle of the zone and felt very comfortable hitting a little shot from 8 to 10 feet before he could get. They're just very smart about not attacking him where he can make more of an impact.
So at the end of that game, we saw Chris Finch go to a super small lineup with Naz Reid at center. Both Gobert and Randall were on the bench. And Thunder fans will remember a very similar lineup giving OKC a ton of problems in this mid-February matchup when Gobert and Randall were out with injuries. Do you think the Wolves might have found something with this lineup that they should at least explore more in games 3 and 4?
Yeah, I don't mind them going to that. Like with that lineup, you have, you're essentially playing 5 out. You have 5 guys that can really attack off the bounce, can shoot it. That's probably what you have to find here in terms of like, you got to find a way to score the ball if you're Minnesota, right? And then hope that OKC has a game where they don't make shots. Because I think if OKC makes shots, like they're winning, like they're just going to win because they're that good. My thing is, again, this OKC, I know I sound like I'm giving OKC a lot of credit, but like, I think they deserve it because it's not just the players, but the way that they were, constructed and how Daigneault makes decisions, which I've really loved his rotate. I've really appreciated, okay, I'm playing this hot hand. Like what Kenrich played, he came in and played a little bit more in game 1, scored like 8 points. He goes to him in game 2. It doesn't look as good. And then he only plays him 2 minutes and keeps him out. Like I always appreciate that Daigneault seems to have a really good pulse on that stuff. But to answer your question, I don't know that there is something specifically that's just going to really cause the Thunder issues because they can match it. You want to go small? We'll go small. We have the guys that can defend you on the perimeter. And so I just struggle to figure. I understand Minnesota trying different things. I just don't know if they're going to find one that has consistent success throughout a series.
Yeah, the only thing I like about that lineup for the Wolves is there were defensive possessions towards the end of that game where they were flying around the court in comparison to when like Gobert and Randall are out there. And that kind of defensive activity, like I just hadn't seen that from the Wolves yet in this series. And that's what scares me as a Thunder fan, because that's when OKC can kind of get a little rattled sometimes. So, but I don't know how much they can, like how much is Finch really willing to sit Gobert and Randall in a single game? I just don't know.
So here's the thing. So think about that. Like that's a good change up, right? Like let's throw out McDaniels, Ant, Dante, Nas. And offensively, that's really interesting. Defensively, run around, scramble, put 2 on Shea, scramble out of it, whatever. Guys, if that's not your identity, that's something that works for a couple minutes, not for a couple games. You know what I mean? It's like whenever people were saying, hey, Minnesota should go zone because it worked for Denver, I went back through and looked at all of my Minnesota game notes. And I'm not saying I like take great notes always on zone possessions, but usually I make note of it for a team because it shows up. And I'm like, Sam, I don't have a whole lot of notes on zone being something they, were great at or whatever. It's like, so then you try to go to it in the biggest moment of the season. How much confidence do the players even have in that strategy, let alone the coach? So it's hard to get away from your identity at this point in the season, whenever there's more on the line now than at any point.
Yeah. And Finch even said before the series started that he just didn't think they were that good at playing zone. And he said they were better at it last year and just haven't even been good at it this year. And part of it, I was kind of thinking, is this gamesmanship, before the series starts, that like maybe they're going to, have that, in their back pocket, but he seems to be correct about that assessment.
So I tracked 2 possessions of it in game 1. One, they immediately gave up the baseline cut to Hartenstein and he got the lob. The second one was a tough J-Dub mid-range. So like, whatever, that's neutral possession defensively. In this game, like I said, I already highlighted the Caruso back-to-back ones. Chet had one. They gave on the very first one after a timeout, they gave up a wing 3-point attempt to Dub. He misses, but then Kaysen got an offensive rebound and then I think scored a layup off of the offensive rebound. I think they had 2 good possessions when they went to it in the third quarter. They forced back-to-back 3-point attempts that were contested from Oklahoma City. Also, real quick, Andrew, I've texted you about this. As good as OKC is, and they are awesome, and for as much as this is a dribble, pass, shoot team, they might be the worst lob throwing team in the NBA, right or wrong.
Yes, they're
believe
miserable.
it or not, they've gotten better at it.
They have,
like last year, it was even more embarrassing. Like in transition, just throwing it just way out of bounds. I think Kaysen Wallace has had some moments.
Yes, Kaysen is the best.
He is definitely the best one. But yeah, no, for being as skilled as they are, it's just like this one skill that is just out of reach for them for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, go ahead.
We're praying for Topic. We're praying that's going to be his skill. He will be able to fix it single-handedly.
I'm just like, this is the ultimate we draft skilled players organization, and they missed so many lobs. Even the one Kaysen threw to Chet in transition last night was an awful pass.
Yeah,
I mean, awful lob passes actually play best to highlight reels because it makes the finish look better.
Yes.
So like everybody's like, what do you mean? That was awesome. Like, yeah, it was still an awful pass. Like it ended up being a great looking play aesthetically, but yeah, I was just like, man, this is my biggest critique. That's my nitpick on the Thunder is throw better lobs. Can we incorporate that into practice, Mr. Dagnall?
We're recording this on Friday morning prior to game 2 of Knicks Pacers. We all saw that improbable finish in game 1, which everyone was still just kind of buzzing about last night at the Paycom Center before the Thunder Wolves game. But it left Knicks fans in like complete disbelief. You can listen back. We did a show with Andrew Claudio, your producer.
Yeah, GMAC.
And it was rough. It was rough for the Knicks film school crew. It was really, really tough. But if there is a positive for New York, though, it's that they did a lot of things right to get up by as much as they did in that game. But what do you think went right for the Knicks in game one? Just like cutting out the last 50 seconds.
So it was funny. That's what's like, I was ready to go on Game Theory. We recorded right after. I put my laptop away, guys. Whenever it was like 14, I put it away. I was like, okay, I'm just going to relax here. Once Sam texts and says we're ready to go, whatever, I'll go put it on the charger for a little bit. And I had to go back and get it because I needed notes on overtime. And I was just like, this is unbelievable. Brunson and Cat were awesome. Like if I'm a Knicks fan, that's my takeaway is they didn't look like they could guard Jalen Brunson, the Indiana Pacers. And Miles Turner, who I think has been awesome in this playoffs up to this point, didn't look like he had any business trying to guard Karl Anthony Towns in that game. You got decent games from the two wings. Here's why the underrated aspect of that comeback. I mean, obviously losing a game is the most important. Brunson was about to get out of that game with like 30 minutes played. And if I told you that you could get a game one win where Brunson only played 30 minutes, you would be like, sign me up. Because we know Tibbs is never going to do that on purpose. But in the second, they actually played well and Payne gave him good minutes. So Brunson was able to set and then the foul trouble. So I think they were the better team for 3.5 quarters. Like that's your biggest takeaway. To me, this series comes down to, can you respond? In the Pistons Knicks series, I think it was game 2, Cat played awful. He was awful. And Detroit stole one in New York. It ended up being the best thing for the Knicks because it made them go, we have to make sure this guy is always involved in what we do offensively. We can't mess around. Jalen was doing too much ISO stuff, and it ended up being a positive. Can that happen from this? Can this be a positive for the Knicks in terms of we can never, ever let our foot off the gas against this team because they are relentless and they're always coming?
Well, Bryce, thank you for answering all of our questions, but it is now time to play Andrew versus the Beat. Bryce, I've come up with 8 questions all about the final 4 teams in the NBA playoffs. So you've played this before. 8 questions. Some are easy, some are hard. You're going to choose a number between 1 and 8. It will correspond to a question. If you get it right, you'll get at least 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew will have a chance to steal for 1, and we'll go back and forth until all the questions have been asked and answered. So, Bryce, I just need a number between 1 and 8.
3.
Question number 3. Among the 4 remaining teams, Anthony Edwards has taken the most three-pointers in the playoffs with 118 attempted threes. Who has taken the second and third most attempted three-pointers in the playoffs among the 4 remaining teams? And you do get 1 point per correct answer.
3-point attempts
over the course of the entire playoffs, but they have to
just play, not regular season, not regular
Correct.
Season.
Just this playoffs run and just from one of the 4 final teams.
Okay, so Knicks.
Wow.
Tyrese for the Pacers. And then... Okay, so I'm going to go Brunson.
That is correct for 1 point.
I just realized I have to factor in games played. Because like some of these, like... I mean, the difference between playing 13 games and playing 11 games could be...
Yeah.
Possibly.
I don't feel great about it. I'm going to say Tyrese.
That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal 1 point.
What about OG?
Andrew, that is also incorrect. The correct answer is Lou Dort.
Lou Dort taking a lot of threes. Wow.
I would argue too many. Okay, Andrew, board is yours.
Number 1.
Question number 1. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 9 30-point games in this year's playoffs. There are 9 active players who have had at least 9 30-point games in a single playoff run. and we're going to name them all. So how this works, Andrew will give me a name, then Bryce will give me a name. So we're talking about active players who at some point during their career had a playoff run where, similar to SGA, they had at least 9 30-point games in that playoff run.
Wow. Steph Curry.
Steph Curry is correct. Bryce.
LeBron
James is correct.
It's like
Andrew.
I was like, surely this is LeBron is a great answer because, like, if it's wrong, you don't feel stupid. It's like you say LeBron, and if it's yeah.
The one thing I will say is I had to scroll back far. It was like Cleveland days. Like,
so that's I was a little nervous if it was legit, like just because that's not always his thing. But I figured in Cleveland there was a series or a run where he had to be that level of score.
Yeah. KD.
Kevin Durant. He has done it. Bryce.
Luka
has done it. He did it last year. Andrew.
Jokic
has also done it.
Interesting. I was not going to say Jokic. I thought Giannis.
Yes, Giannis has done it.
Of course.
I'm now screwed.
Giannis may have had the most, if I remember correctly.
I was going to say, yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
3 names remaining. Can you get them all?
Oh, I don't feel good about this one that I'm about to say. Maybe I shouldn't say it then. Let's see. Active player. I don't know if he did this during this run, but would have had a chance to. Kawhi Leonard.
Andrew, he did do it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, nervous.
All right, Bryce,
Al.
2 names remaining.
I don't know if this guy made deep enough runs. I don't feel great.
Damian Lillard is incorrect, Bryce. I'm sorry.
James Harden.
Also incorrect.
I was gonna say I refuse to say James Harden after some of the. I'm not giving him. I mean, he doesn't always play game 7s, right? So there was probably some games 1 through 6 where he did score.
That's wild, though. That's wild that James isn't on that list.
Well, now that I'm looking at it, every single one of these guys has had a finals run, which Harden only did that with OKC.
Yeah.
So he had one. The other 2 names, Tatum. And then the one that probably would have been the hardest to get, Devin Booker.
I actually thought Booker.
Man, I guess he had the finals run. Wow.
I'm looking at Dames now, and it's like, just you need the games, like, because there's some years where he scored a bunch, like he had them, but they just didn't go far enough. Fun question. Nice.
Okay, Bryce, board is yours.
8.
Question number 8. Aaron Nesmith hit 6 3-pointers in the 4th quarter of the Pacers' dramatic comeback against the Knicks in Game 1. Prior to that game, how many times in his career had Nesmith hit 6 threes in a single game? Now, you get to choose who answers first, because obviously you wouldn't know the answer to this. So you can make Andrew answer first, and then you can go higher or lower. Or you can answer first, and then Andrew would go higher or lower. However, if you make Andrew answer and he gets it exactly correct, he would get a bonus point. So what would you like to do? So this is career 6 threes in a game for Aaron Nesmith. How many times has he done that?
Okay, so I will guess.
Okay. Bryce is going.
Because if I guess right, I get extra
nice
points.
Little bonus point. You could get 3 points here.
And so is the question is counting this game, or this game is
not counting this game.
Not counting this game,
though, that you know the answer, and so you need to know whether you need to subtract 1 or not.
Subtracting 1 may put us at 0. So this is gonna be a fun one. Okay, I'm gonna say 2.
Okay, Andrew. Bryce has set the over-under at 2 games. Would you like to go higher or lower?
I guess I'll go higher, but that's just because I just watched what he did. I don't know.
So in his career, Aaron Nesmith has hit 6 threes in a game prior to game 1 4 different times.
4 times.
Which means Andrew.
That's just got to make you so sick as a Knicks fan. That's got to make you just want to just seriously throw up immediately with
That's over 48 minutes, and he did it in like 5 minutes. Okay, Andrew, board is yours.
Number 2.
Question number 2. Okay, Oklahoma City is currently shooting 32.5% from 3 in the playoffs. If they won the NBA Finals while shooting that poorly, they would join a very short list of teams to do so. Since 2000, there have been 3 NBA champions that shot worse than 33% from 3 over their championship run. Wow. Can you name any of them? So you do
name any of them.
So you do get 1 point per correct answer, but you do have to give me the team and the year that they won the championship.
I have to give you the team and the year. So the teams that won the finals. What was the time? What was the length of time again?
Since 2000. Since
2000. It's a lot of champions.
Yeah. Roughly 24.
Wow.
Unless you're counting 2000. There's 25. So it's up to you.
Yo. What about the 2004 Pistons?
Andrew, that is correct.
Yes. That was the only one I had in my mind was the 04 Pistons.
Yes. Can you think of another one?
Oh boy. What about the 2010 Lakers?
Andrew, that is correct. Wow.
For you.
Andrew, can you do a clean sweep here?
I just remember watching that finals, like the final game of
game 7.
That game 7.
Yeah.
Where it was just so putrid and like no one could make a shot. And it was just like Kobe mid-range shots to save their lives. I don't know if I can clean sweep this. What about... I don't feel good about this. I just don't know that they take a lower volume, so there's just might be a chance. What about the Denver team that just won it?
What year was that?
2023.
Yeah,
Bryce,
thank you.
Don't help him. Also, it's wrong, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Bryce, do you have any guesses for the final team?
So I'll be honest, like after the Pistons won, I just looked up NBA championship. So if I had to guess, just looking at the teams, I would have said the 06 Heat.
Correct answer. Very recent. The 2021 Bucks.
The Bucks. Really?
Bucks.
Wow.
They had so many bad shooting games in that run.
So I was going to say, I clicked on them. They actually shot it well in the regular season. So I was like, man, I think they had enough. So they just had the playoffs was down for them.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, they had 10 games where they shot 33% or worse from 3.
Wow.
They were 5-5 in those games, and then were dominant otherwise.
Like Middleton was at 34% on almost 8 attempts. Lopez shot 32. Holiday was at 30. Wow, Dante shot 17% on 4 attempts. Giannis was taking 3 attempts per game. So...
Okay, so that is why it happened. Okay, Bryce, you control the board. Comeback starts now.
Yeah, sure. 4. I got a point. That's all I care about. Everything else is gravy now.
Question number 4. There are 2 players still playing in this year's playoffs who had a triple-double in this year's playoffs. Do you remember who it was?
You remember who it was?
2 players still playing in this year's playoffs. Okay, so I know one is Josh Hart.
That is correct for 1 point.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
All right, so Jokic is out. Cade had one. Giannis. So I assume it's not SGA. Brunson, no. Cat, no. Indiana triple doublers. I'll go. He's had a really good playoffs. I'll go Julius.
That is correct, Bryce.
Yeah,
Wow, 5-3. Okay,
Wow.
we've got a game on our hands.
It's kind of crazy that Josh was the easier answer for that one.
That is hilarious. That rules.
All right, Andrew.
I'll go 5.
Question number 5. Okay. Which bench player has hit the most threes in this year's playoffs among the 4 remaining teams?
Made threes. Okay.
Have to hit them.
Had to hit them. Shoot. This is a hard question. Is it Alex Caruso?
It is Alex Caruso, who's hit 24 threes so far in this year's playoffs. Unless he hit some last night, because I think he did. But yeah, that's the answer. Congratulations, Andrew. But there's still 2 questions left, Bryce.
I think he made 1 last night.
7.
6. I was just thinking about I was just thinking about other answers with that. Like Pritchard would have been the answer if it wasn't the final 4.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I think even though he's shot terribly, DiVincenzo's up there. And then
Beasley would have been another name. Like even though they only played 1 series, I think he would have been an interesting name as well. Caruso has been awesome.
He's been very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nas could have been that guy if he could make a 3, against OKC.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know if I gave a number yet or not. I'm getting old. I forget.
Yeah. You said 6.
Okay.
Among the 4 remaining teams, who has had the most total touches in this year's playoffs, but also has never made an All-Star game?
Just slip in a caveat. Oh my gosh.
I said 7. You misunderstood me. You didn't hear me correctly. Okay. So 4 remaining teams, right?
Yes. Just from one of these 4 teams. Most touches in the playoffs, but never made an All-Star game.
Okay. So Brunson's out. Tyrese is out. Ant is out.
Yeah. I think Brunson, SGA, Halliburton were the top 3.
Makes sense.
Okay. I'm going to go to old friend.
Okay.
I love this guy. I get to do stuff at Knicks Film School now, and I just try to do stuff to promote him since I have this opportunity right now. Even though he gave up an awful backdoor in overtime. I feel like Josh Hart touches the ball a lot between transition, rebounds, they use him in ball screens because other teams try to hide people on him. So I would say it's either Josh Hart or Mikal Bridges. I'll go Josh Hart.
Bryce, that is correct.
Wow.
Great answer.
Wow.
Okay. So it is 7-5. Bryce can't win, but he could get it within 1. Which is exciting. Okay, Andrew.
It's something. I don't know.
Which is exciting. Okay, Andrew, you get first dibs on this question. I want you to rank the 4 remaining playoff teams based on total clutch minutes in the playoffs, from most clutch minutes to fewest clutch minutes.
Hey.
And you're going to just rank all 4, and then I'll just say yes or no. Don't do them one at a time.
Don't do them one at a time, you said.
Yes, because I don't want to give Bryce the answer in case you get it wrong.
Okay. I got you. Okay. So from the most to the least, that's what you said?
Yeah. Most clutch minutes to fewest.
I will say the Knicks, number 1. I will say Indy, number 2. And then I'll go Thunder, then Wolves.
That is incorrect. Setting up Bryce to pull it within one. On the next question.
Excitement.
This is going to end up being Tyrese toe on the line. Can we go to? Can that give me to overtime at least? If okay,
if you do the choke symbol after you get it right.
Okay, I guess I'll take my L. The Knicks, and then you said okay. So I'll go Indiana. No, you said Indiana.
OKC. Indy second.
Yeah. So I'll go OKC, Indiana, Minnesota.
That is correct, Bryce. Brings us to a final score of 7-6. It feels like a loss for Andrew at this point.
Honestly,
the way I built it up.
Honestly, if my Neesmith question strategy wasn't so piss poor, I probably would have won the game. Like my strategy there of trying to get it correct blinded me into like saying 2 is dumb because obviously you're going to go over and like it just, I just was like, I want to get this one right. So like my pride got in the way.
Welcome to my world, brother. That is the question that I always seem to answer and always want to answer. And I get it wrong almost every week.
Yeah.
Go listen to the Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecini. It's a great show. It's a good basketball show. I think sometimes you guys get pigeonholed as a draft show, but if you just want to know basketball strategy better, I don't think there's a better podcast for you to listen to when it comes to that. So please go listen to that. Listen to the Pistons Pulse as well. It's a great Pistons podcast. If you're interested at all in the Detroit Pistons, it is not only is it's a good Pistons show, but it's just kind of delightful to listen to. Like if you're just looking for something to listen to while you're doing the dishes or something, just to kind of
mowing the lawn, whatever you need. I mean, it's good. It's a good show. It's one that I subscribe to. So please go listen to those. Bryce, anything else you want to promote before you get out of here? No, that was it. Motor City Hoops on Twitter and Blue Sky. I am doing some film work for Knicks Film School during the playoffs. So like I do these video breakdowns over there on their YouTube where I broke down, so-and-so's play, or, I looked at a preview of how Indiana pushes pace offensively leading into the series, stuff like that. So if you're into that video work, check that out. But otherwise, the Pulse, Game Theory, I appreciate you guys a lot. Truly, I get excited when you send me the text like, hey, you want to come on? And I didn't tell you this at the time, but like I rearranged my schedule this morning so I could make this happen because I was like, I am not missing this because I enjoy recording with you guys so much. So thank you so much for having me. And hopefully this year we can spend some actual time together at Summer League, right? Like last year we met, we took the selfie, and then that was it.
I know. Like I think that I was like getting an Uber and I canceled it so that I could come say hi to you, and then I went and got an Uber again.
It was also raining, and it was like,
this is absurd.
Yes, but
this is how much we like hanging out together, is that we just need like 5 seconds to say hello, and like that was really all we got. Go leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, just like DCM 6827, 5-star Slam and Jam. Andrew and Alex are so fun to listen to. I love how they prepare for the show with stats, quotes, and trivia. They are the surprise team of NBA podcasters. Wow. That is quite a compliment. Very much appreciate that. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or read it on the show. Appreciate you guys listening. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll talk to you guys again next week.